Good morning, everybody. It is 9 o'clock on a Wednesday, and it is time for the first quarter, your morning sports show. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Good. Really excited to talk about all the great playoffs that are about to begin in the professional leagues.
Yeah, a couple playoffs coming up, one in the NBA. We don't know much about the NHL, but we figured if we have time at the end, we might as well make a bracket, have a little fun today with it. So first off, to talk about the NBA playoffs, we obviously got to talk about last night's games. Two fairly decent games. Well, the second one was really good. The first one was back and forth for a while. Then one team started to pull away. That game being the number 7 Miami Heat against the number 8 Atlanta Hawks. Coming into this game, I had no expectations for Atlanta whatsoever. Usually playoff Jimmy takes over, and Atlanta kind of ran away with that one. I was kind of surprised with that.
Yeah, even with Kyle Lowry having 33 points, which is pretty impressive for him. You know, he's getting up in age, and he's still doing that. Somehow still going to get the win.
Yeah, I think Miami's big problem going into that game was just could not rebound the ball at all. I said it during this offseason that they need to find a 4. They've ran all season with Jimmy Butler at the 4, and at some point in time, that's just not going to work. You have to get a legit big man that can get you boards other than just relying on Bam Adebayo game in, game out. That being said, even their backup situation, and they have an old Kevin Love, they have an old Cody Zeller who didn't even play last year. Like, I don't know what you're doing if you're the Heat. I know they've got injuries there. But I'm sure they didn't really want to put like a 40-year-old Udonis Haslem out on the court in the playoffs.
No, that was not. Even though he went off at the last game of the year, but I don't know. Hawks just played good, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they were hitting everything from the field. It was ridiculous. Their bench also was just absolutely absurd. Sadiq Bey had 17, Bogdanovich had 14, Okongwu had 12, Jalen Johnson had 10. When all 4 of your guys off the bench are getting you 10 to 15 points in a playoff game, you're likely going to win that game compared to Miami's only real production off the bench being Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to try to find it, but I think the rebounding, they almost like doubled their rebounds. 41, or it was 63 to 39 on rebounds. So yeah, back to what you were saying, like rebounds honestly win you games, and they shot fairly similar. It was within 4%. Well, the three-pointer, the Heat actually shot 10% better. So you'd think that would have kind of been more of a – seen that more in the score, but it was those rebounds and all the fast break points that come off the rebounds. It was 64 to 46 or 17 to 12 in fast break points. It was actually 64 to 46 in points in the paint. So the Hawks dominated them in the paint, which is surprising because Clint Capella only had 4 points. So
yeah, most of that's probably the old Trae Young pick and roll action with Clint. Probably just got that he kind of got that floater going late in the fourth, early on in the fourth, and really from there, Atlanta pretty much controlled their own destiny in that game.
I was surprised too just looking at the box score here. It's like for me, I would think whichever team's star player could step up the most was going to win the game. But looking at like Trae Young shooting 8 for 18. And then, like you said, Jimmy Butler never really showing up shooting 6 for 19. It's like this game was really decided by, like, role players and bench. And like you guys said, I mean, Atlanta's bench, just the more consistent, 4 guys all in double digits.
Mm-hmm.
Huge boost. I mean, of course, and also, Miami had one bench player go off, and Lowry.
Yeah, he was pretty much their guy to get them back in that game. Because at one point in time, they were down 20, and it was just like, well, this game's ugly. I'm going to shut it off and go away. But I stuck around, and they got it down within 5. But every time they seemed to go on a run, Atlanta bounced back pretty well and eventually pulled away late in the fourth. So Atlanta moved on, grabbed the 7th seed. They now play Boston, and we're going to talk about that later on. So moving on to the next game, number 7 L.A. Lakers took on the number 8 Minnesota Timberwolves. That game was more of an interesting one. The Lakers and King James, if you would, pulled it out 108 to 102 over Minnesota. And talk about a season turnaround for them. They did not look like a playoff team at all until that trade deadline.
Yeah, and I mean they just played really well. And I honestly thought coming into this year that they wouldn't do anything, and then exactly like you said, the trade deadline, they just completely changed the culture of that team. They kind of like started playing basketball, and it works. But I don't know. Did you think the Lakers were going to win coming into this game?
Oh, I did. Okay, we got to go back to the final game of the season with the Minnesota Timberwolves. When your team chemistry is Rudy Gobert punching Kyle Anderson in the chest, and then Jaden McDaniels walking into the locker room, punching a wall, breaking his hand, probably done for the season now. I don't think you can expect much going into the playoffs if you're even going to make the playoffs at this point.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't even. That's just crazy.
Like, you got to keep your composure. Your veteran, what's supposed to be your veteran guy in Rudy Gobert, and what you gave up so much for, isn't even going to play potentially in the postseason because he didn't even play this last game. So if they don't win this next game, they're not in. It's wild to me that's how you end your season that way. But talking about I want to go back to LeBron. He was 12 for 21, 10 boards, 6 assists. It's pretty wild how he's able to keep it up at this age.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's a freak of nature. We all know. He's doing them cryrotherapies after games and them ice tanks. But on the Lakers, I was Anthony Davis and LeBron, when they're both healthy and playing, I think they're 2 top 10 players, and they kind of showed it last night. 24 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. For Anthony Davis it's a pretty insane stat line, and that's kind of like, that's Anthony Davis. No one really talked about it that much.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the end of the regulation anyway, because this game did go to overtime. So the game was tied at 95. LeBron makes a pass, kicks it out to Schroeder in the corner, nails a 3. I think that was like 2 point some odd seconds left, maybe 1.
It was like 1.4.
Kick it over to Minnesota, kicks it to Mike Conley, wide open in the corner, puts up a terrible shot. AD comes flying in and almost blows it for the Lakers because Conley was able to hit all 3 free throws with 0.1 seconds left. And at that point in the game, I was like, is this really how it's going to end for the Lakers after doing all that effort to get into the play-in?
I thought that's how it was. I thought they were going to definitely lose. I'm like, that's such a Lakers thing to do.
And the defense by the Lakers in the fourth quarter was incredible. Held Minnesota, and overtime actually, held Minnesota 16 total points combined in the last 2 quarters.
Yeah.
Which I did not see coming because I really thought they were an offense-heavy-based team aside from AD and Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and I want to say, Anthony Edwards had a rough game, 3 for 17. He was 1 for 12 coming into the fourth quarter, and then 3 for 17. Usually he's the guy you want taking your shots. But I was going to say, shout out Mike Conley. Having 23 points. He stepped up and honestly made it even a game. Without him, they would have kind of got blown out. So, if Mike Conley can stay that hot, and whoever they play Friday, that could be huge if he's playing like that. So we'll see.
Speaking of whoever they play Friday, we're going to talk about tonight's games a little bit. So the first game tonight is between the number 9 Toronto Raptors and the number 10 Chicago Bulls. Winner of this game advances to play the Miami Heat, who are the, 7 seed. And the winner of that game will get the 8. So, we'll talk about this game first. Who do you got in this one?
I think I'm going to go with, I don't know, it's kind of hard. I'd say the Raptors I'm favoring, but I don't know.
I lean more towards Chicago. I really think since they've made that Pat Bev signing, he has been able to fill that Lonzo role. He's not as good of a passer, but he brings that defensive spark that they've been missing with Lonzo Ball. Caruso could kind of be that guy at times, but he's really not a true point guard, and I really think that Pat Bev signing has somewhat, I wouldn't say turned the Bulls season around, because, yeah, they're only 40-42. They are playing for that final 8 spot, which isn't ideal, but since you're in this scenario, you have to be looking at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So Eileen Bulls, they have well, I don't think they're better than Siakam, but I think they have 2 of the top 3 players in this series in Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
But that being said, the Raptors arguably have one of the deepest teams in the league, and one of the better defensive teams. Like I believe all 5 of their starters averages a whole steal a game, which is absolutely insane. And they have the steals leader in OG Anunoby.
Yeah.
So, I lean Bulls. I guess if you lean Raptors, that's fair too, because I
Yeah.
could see this going either way.
Yeah, we'll see. And this is the 9-10, so
yeah.
they'll play the Heat.
hmm
We could talk about that. You know, if you think that either one of these teams will beat the Heat, when it comes down to it.
I think Toronto can, just based off of veteran experience. The Bulls, they've been such a mess this year. I don't know, but that being said, so is Miami. I don't think Chicago can. And this is my problem with the play-in tournament. Miami has won 47 games, right? So 44, excuse me. They have a 3-game advantage over. They had a 3-game advantage over Atlanta. Atlanta won 41. My problem with the play-in is, at what point do you say, like, what's the point of even playing it? Because I believe it was last year, the Clippers had 42 wins, and they were 6 games ahead of the New Orleans Pelicans. Why in the world should New Orleans have a chance over the Clippers to make the play-in?
Just from like a outsider looking in, I'm not a huge NBA person, obviously, but like, yeah, this playoff format is just weird as heck to me. The whole play-in system, and it's like trying to give teams more opportunity to make the playoffs, but it's like you said, I feel like they're giving teams who maybe aren't so deserving of that spot a chance to steal it in a 1-game upset. And now you just took it from a team who had like you said, maybe a 7 or 8 win better season than you, and now they're out.
Yeah.
I just don't see why you don't just line it up best 8, and then let it roll. I mean,
Yeah. I think there needs to be a certain criteria. Like, if you're not reaching within 3 games, there's no point, because you play 82 games for a reason. If you're not, I mean, there's just no point.
I've talked about this yesterday with somebody. I feel like the NBA is trying to create kind of a wild card atmosphere, because the MLB has a wild card in the NFL. And I mean, it's not really like an underdog, but people kind of want to see some crazy wild card story.
I get that, but to me, this is even more so than a wild card game. This is lose
Make
a
or
wild
break.
card game, go to another wild card game, win that wild card game, then you know, it's like wild card game is 1 game, everything for nothing. This is multiple games. Like, if you lose, in my opinion, the teams that lost yesterday should be done. Your season should be over. That's a wild card.
But I was going to say,
you don't get another chance.
It's different for the NBA, because the MLB, if a team's hot coming out of the wild card, they could beat, the team they play the next round. NBA, usually the 8 seeds are kind of getting smoked by the 1 seed, so these are kind of seen as pointless if you want.
That's fair. It's kind of just like in the sense that whoever comes out of these 4 out as the 8 or the 7 is likely not to make it onto the second round.
The only team that I've seen as the favorites is the Lakers out of all these teams to win the next round.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that here in a little bit. I just wanted to point that out real quick, see your guys' thoughts on that. So the other game we have tonight is the number 9 New Orleans Pelicans against the number 10 Oklahoma City Thunder. One team has somewhat, I guess, experience in New Orleans. The other team has 0, besides maybe Shea with that Chris Paul-led team.
I've got to go the Thunder, simply. I just don't like the Pelicans' atmosphere with the whole Zion thing. Zion said he's 100% physically ready, but he's not going to return until he feels like Zion. I'm like, dude, you're in the playoffs. I mean, like, you should be playing.
I saw the interview, and I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what do you that's how I feel like myself.
I'm not trying to hate on him, but if you're, like, physically ready, I feel like you got to play the playoffs.
Yeah, I lean New Orleans based off the experience factor in in OKC. They have Jonas Valanciunas. They have C.J. McCollum. They have Brandon Ingram. They won the play-in last year, made the 7 seed.
Almost beat the Suns.
Almost beat the Suns without Chris Paul. I don't really see New Orleans winning this game. I'd like to see the Thunder win this game just because it's a cool storyline with how bad they were supposed to be. Like coming into this year, I said that OKC was the best of the worst teams. That being like your Detroit Pistons, your Charlotte Hornets, and all that. But as the season went on, I was like, man, this team might actually be somewhat legit.
They were given 24 wins predicted with Chet, and then when Chet got hurt, it was 17. And then they kind of
Proved everyone
they're
wrong.
like, oh, we'll get 40 wins. How about that? But
Yeah, I lean New Orleans, but it's like I said, it'd be cool to see OKC win. I do like Giddey. I do like Shea. I do like Jalen Williams because I wanted my New York Knicks to take him. Didn't do it, but yeah. So, do you think OKC could beat Minnesota?
I think so because that team's probably all types of different. Because Rudy Gobert will come back for that game because he only had a 1-game suspension. So, I don't know. If they can't get over that instant, then I think the Thunder could win.
I just, like I said, I went New Orleans the first game, but I think New Orleans would absolutely throttle Minnesota.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that being said, Minnesota does have the tiebreaker over New Orleans in the regular season, which is why, I mean, they had the same record, but Minnesota was the 8, New Orleans was the 9. But, yeah, I don't see Minnesota beating either of those teams just based off their chemistry right now. So, all right. So now that we have somewhat our brackets set, I guess we would say, kind of in disagreement with who's the 7s or who's the 8s,
Yeah.
but like
Doesn't
we
even
said,
matter.
I'll say in the grand scheme of things, it's the NBA. There's not too much parity when it comes to 8 or 1-8 matchups, so it doesn't make that big of a difference. So where do we want to start? Top of the bracket with the 1-8 or
Yeah, the Nuggets.
okay? So we're gonna start off with the West.
And what you would have them playing the Pelicans, you have them playing OKC.
So all we can do it for different outcomes. I think if the Nuggets matched up with the Thunder and the Wolves, I think they win in 5. But I think if they play the Pelicans will give them the hardest game. I think that could
Like
go
the 6.
I think like a 6 or 7 maybe. But I think ultimately Nuggets in 5 or 6.
Yeah, right here, I have a bracket in front of me that I kind of just filled out. I had Denver in 6 over New Orleans. Looking back on it, I don't know who in the world would guard Jokic besides Valanciunas, but that is not Jonas's strong suit. I leaned heavy 6, heavy 7, but I think that would go to 5 with no Zion and no. But yeah, I lean heavy Denver. Jokic is just going to be Jokic. That team's always somewhat decent in the playoffs. They always make it past the first round. So yeah, I'm going Denver there.
Okay, who you got?
Yeah, I mean, just it's the 1 seed. Denver's a strong team. I'm definitely going Denver here. I don't think it matters which 3 they play. Like you said, maybe it goes 5, maybe it goes 6, but
In the
Denver
grand
either way.
scheme of
Yeah.
things, Denver. Next matchup is Phoenix and the LA Clippers. I think this is probably the best first round matchup. I don't know what you think, Michael, but
I think that's one unlucky draw for the Clippers, I think.
I know I'd love to see both these teams in the second round, but
It's tough. I think the Suns are undefeated with Durant.
yeah, they're 8-0 with them.
So
So Phoenix in 4?
12-0.
I don't think that'll happen just because
Kawhi.
Kawhi and Paul George actually is not going to play until Game 4 or something like that.
I forgot what he did. I forgot he was injured.
So they're like, maybe if the Clippers can get 2 games before that they could have a chance, but
I don't know if they could 2 in the first 4.
that Suns team
That's
is
a tall
pretty
order.
just deep.
Yeah, they're just that offensive trio of CP3 as your main ball handler. I forgot about Ayton too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say D Book and Kevin Durant, but
they
that duo
all-
alone.
They all have finals experience too, so that's
Yeah.
going to be huge. So I'd say Suns in I'm gonna say Suns in 5 or 6.
So the same thing you felt about Denver.
I said Phoenix in 6 also. So far we're in agreement. Do you want to go? Do you have the 3 on your screen first, or do you have the 2?
I have the 3.
I have the
Okay.
3.
So that matchup, this is another really interesting. The West is
Yeah.
just completely interesting. So we have the 3 seed Sacramento Kings against the 6 seed Golden State Warriors. And since you're a Kings fan, I'll let you, somewhat a Kings fan. I'll let you lead off with
The
this
Kings with only a 22% chance to win.
one. I don't
That's
know
a-
about
that's-
22.
That's an unlucky draw, I will have to say, is getting the Warriors. Nobody wants to play the Warriors. Doesn't matter. Like, I guarantee you the Nuggets wouldn't want to play the Warriors if even as a 1 seed. But I do think that, I think the Kings had the highest rated offense in NBA history. I mean, those numbers are skewed because, there's more scoring now, so they're obviously going to be up there. But I think this honestly goes 7. I think it goes 50-50 in Game 7. But I think the predictions are, even when it's a Kings home game, it's going to be a Warriors home game. There's going to be more Warriors fans moving. So that's honestly, I think, going to be the biggest factor. So I think I'm going to say Kings in 7, but honestly, I think it'll be Warriors in 7.
That's what I have. I have Warriors in 7.
But I'm going to go biased here.
So my biggest issue with if it goes 7, I think Sacramento wins. Golden State only has 11 road games on the year, so they're like 11-31. So if it goes 7, I don't think Golden State would pull it out. But that being said, I don't think it goes 7 just because Golden State has that experience. They still have their main core and Steph, Clay, Draymond. Kevon Looney's been there for 7 years. I mean, he doesn't seem like a significant name, but when you have that chemistry built into your roster, along with zero experience on the other side in Sacramento, I have a hard time seeing Sacramento being able to stop a Golden State offense. Because I think they have a bottom
They do.
5 ranked defense.
I agree, but I also think the Warriors match up horribly for the Kings. I think if the Kings really get in there and implement their game, if Sabonis can do Sabonis, because I don't know who's going to guard De'Aaron Fox. Steph Curry can't guard. Whoever Curry's on, they're going to, I think they have to. If they put Curry on Kevin Huerter or Fox, if either one of them can have like a 20 to 30 point game, I think the Kings easily can win these games. It's going to be who can
Who plays defense?
It's going to be who can step up and score for the Kings, because I think the Warriors will do their scoring. They always score. But big game. We'll see if the Kings can do it.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to the 2-7 now. Kind of the same narrative, really. Looking at the two teams, you have the experience in LeBron and AD, and then you have a young core in Memphis with Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr. that doesn't have too much playoff experience. And did you say that the Lakers are actually favored to win the series?
Yeah, it's because Steven Adams isn't playing.
That just blows my mind.
If Steven Adams plays, 100% I'm picking the Grizzlies. But because he's not playing, that's so big, I'm not going to lie. Because I don't know who their backup center is.
It was Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark
Yeah.
tore his Achilles. They're down to Xavier Tillman as their starting 5, unless they run Triple J at the center, and like Jaren Jackson Jr.,
Mhm.
and run Santi Aldama at the 4, which is just going to be your stereotypical sit at the 3-point line and wait for the ball to be kicked out to you 4. I don't see the Lakers in any universe winning this game winning this series with how deep Memphis is. I know they have LeBron, I know they have a healthy Anthony Davis, but I always go back to that 2020 series when the Lakers were 7 and the Suns were 2. That being said, AD got hurt. Anthony Davis got hurt in that series, but it's just they're a 7 seed for a reason. It's not like they were good all year. They showed up at the end of the season, but the NBA is one of those leagues where even if you're hot at the end of the season, just get into the playoffs. It doesn't likely continue when you get to play those better teams in your Memphises, in your Milwaukees, in your Denvers. You know.
It's because not a one. If it's a one and done game, those like Cinderella teams would sweep people sometimes. But you win one game and then you got to play 6 more if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm gonna have the Grizzlies in 7. I think if Steven Adams was here, it'd be a 4 or a 5. But I think LeBron, AD are gonna try their best. But I mean, I honestly can see the Lakers winning. But I think the media people are kind of blowing it out of proportion, and they're having like the Lakers as the favorites now. And I'm like, no one was saying this when they had 30 wins earlier in the year,
Mm-hmm.
and no one thought they were gonna make the playoffs. But it is LeBron, so
Yeah, I think it's the fogged goggles. People just look at it and they see LeBron, and it's like, oh, well, it's LeBron James, so that's going to be tough to win because it's LeBron James. But if that was the
Oh.
case and LeBron James was just that whole team was amazing, and LeBron James was just one of the pieces, they wouldn't be a 7 seed.
Yeah. And you go back to that LeBron James factor. I mean, this team is this team's better than that 2000 whatever team it was, 2018 Cavs teams that had like George Hill, Jordan Clarkson, that absolutely bad, like obviously
Yeah.
bad team. But this isn't the same LeBron as 2018 LeBron, 2017 LeBron. He can't
5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I would say he can't carry a team to the NBA Finals again. So I have Memphis in 6. I think that even whoever they play at the true 5, if Jaren Jackson plays the 5, he'll be guarding Anthony Davis anyway, and he's like probably the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. So I think
those got leaked, and they gave Defensive Player of the Year to Evan Mobley.
that's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
we'll save that for another time. But yeah, I have Memphis in 6. So do we want to move on to the East now, or do we want to finish the West?
I vote East, go down, keep it in the same round.
Okay. So first round matchup between the 1 and 8.
I hate to break it to him. I don't think any of those teams beat the Bucks.
I think it's a clean sweep regardless. I have Miami there, and you had Toronto.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
I had Chicago pulling out a game if they have it if they make it there, on the lone fact that they're division rivals. So I wouldn't be surprised. They know their game plan, blah blah blah, the stereotypical division rival thing. But Chicago is really the only team. Maybe Toronto, just because of their experience. But Giannis is going to do Giannis things in the playoffs. And yeah, I don't really see any of the 8 seeds doing much because they're 8 seeds.
Mhm.
Had the same talk with the West. All right, biggest series in my eyes. That being said, I am a Knicks fan, so number 4 seed Cleveland against number 5 seed New York. Hate to say it, don't see us pulling this one out. I've seen it in the past. Whenever last time New York made the playoffs, Julius Randle is not a playoff guy, and he's going to go up against probably the best defensive duo, interior duo in the league, in Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. If we rely heavily on Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle cannot get anything going, I don't know who our second option is going to be. It's got to have to be like R.J. Barrett, but R.J. Barrett's proven this year and in past years he can't be relied upon when it comes to big game situations. And along with that, I don't know who's going to stop Donovan Mitchell. I don't know who's going to stop Darius Garland.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup. They actually 79% Cleveland, so I have Cleveland in 6. I don't know what you had.
Cleveland in 6, sadly. Another year of New York not making it out of the first round for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I just feel like the Knicks don't have that it for me to pick them.
I said this whenever we signed Julius Randle to that extension. I would rather just blow it up, and because I don't think, like, I love Julius Randle because he's turned this franchise around, but I don't think he's a franchise changing. I just said he changed the franchise around. It sounds rhetorical,
I
but
don't think he's a franchise in
you
winning.
can't. Yes,
Yeah.
a championship guy, I guess I should say.
He's Lamar Jackson.
Ooh, hard,
Sorry about it.
hard on him. But yeah, I just don't. it's kind of annoying that he's under contract for 2 more years. But as long as we're making the playoffs, as long as we're drawing attention in,
Yeah.
haven't been significantly relevant for years. But let's talk about the winning team a little bit in Cleveland. Do you think they can make a semi-deep run? I mean, I know we're going to talk about it next round since we had them
I do
advancing.
not. If they were in the 3 or 6 spot, I think they could, but I don't think they can beat the Bucks. To be
Okay.
honest.
And then
next game,
yeah, 3-6. The East is so.
Cade Sixers.
Yeah.
Your James Harden led Sixers or your
Yes.
Joel Embiid led Sixers?
Definitely Joel Embiid. I'm not going to be.
Do you even think there's a chance they lose this one, Cade?
No, I think I have watched a decent amount of the Sixers. If I do catch a game, it is the Sixers, and I feel like they'll lose one, but I think Brooklyn, obviously, I mean, this is just perfect. It's really easy first round. I feel like Brooklyn, obviously, I think most of their wins came when they still had KD and Kyrie before the trade deadline, and they blew everything up, but they still got into the playoffs just based off of how many wins they already had. I think they were better than most people expected them to be after those trades, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get by the Sixers. I think they'll drop one. I got Sixers in 5.
I do too, and I got to say, I respect the Nets so much for, still making the playoffs with Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson trade, and, they're super young, and being the 6th seed is pretty good for them. I think if they keep those two as, like, a core, because they have a pretty solid young core right now, so maybe if Ben Simmons would play, it'd be different. But
Would it, though?
maybe. I don't There'd probably be, like, more, like, emotion in this game, obviously, because he's playing.
Rival.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's really good that Brooklyn made the playoffs, gets your young guys some experience. I mean, Mikal Bridges has experience with Phoenix, and so does Cam Johnson, but not as leaders. Sucks to say it because I'm a huge Mikal Bridges fan. I just love the way he plays and the fact that he plays all the time. I think he played 83 games this year.
He's never missed a game.
Yeah, he played 83, over the limit.
Iron Man.
But I do have Philly in 4. I mean, Nick Claxton is going to match up with Joel. That's just a complete mismatch. So I think it's a pretty easy win for Philly.
I think they'll do Mikal Harden, which will be a pretty fun matchup. They'll put Mikal on
James Harden, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think think Brooklyn could pull out a game, but we just haven't seen Mikal Bridges as that guy in the playoffs, like as that true leader. So we'll see. But I think Philly advances regardless. So 2-7 matchup in Boston and Atlanta. Boston's probably the second odds-on favorite to win the title. Atlanta's been struggling all year. New head coach and Quinn Snyder that they picked up mid-season. They stayed around 500 all season. There's like a ridiculous stat where they were within one game of 500 for like 3 straight months.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. They kept winning and losing and winning
Yeah.
and losing. They couldn't go on a run.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I don't even know if Atlanta sneaks a game in, honestly.
Yeah, I had the Celtics in a sweep.
Maybe one, but I don't know. Trae Young has never really like performed super well in the playoffs besides the year they made the Eastern Conference Finals. He's such a streaky guy where like if he's on, and if he's not, he's shooting you out of a game. But I see no chance at all of Atlanta winning this series. Maybe if Clint Capella drops 40, they they do it, but no, that's not going to happen.
In my bracket, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on both sides. I think you guys have the Warriors. But,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's really the only difference. Is just
but that's how the NBA goes. It's usually the top seeds win the first round. That's why.
or 5 sneaks one out. But this year, I feel like the 4-5s are such mismatches in the first round that
Yeah.
I don't see either one of them doing it. So, in my 1-4 for the West, I believe Cade's too. We both have Denver and Phoenix.
Yep.
Could be a really interesting matchup. I've said Denver all year. Well, I say all year until the KD trade coming out of the West. It's a like I said, the only way I see Denver winning this matchup is if Jokic completely bullies. I mean, he's probably going to bullies DeAndre Ayton and just completely takes over and is able to outscore that four-headed monster in Ayton, Booker, Chris Paul, and Kevin Durant.
But Aiden, every time Aiden's in the play, Aiden is amazing in the playoffs. I will say he was the year they went on the run. He dropped like a 2020. He was dropping 2020 games. He played super well. I just think for me, the way I'm gonna base it off this is I know it's a lot of what ifs on the Suns if they're healthy. This is gonna be if the Suns are completely healthy throughout this whole playoffs. I'm not gonna think about oh, what if Durant gets hurt 2 games and can't play. I'm just going to base it off of pure health, and I'm going to go Phoenix in 6 or 7. But I think without Durant, this Nuggets team might beat them in 5.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the Kevin Durant trade flipped their season up on its head and just debunked. And it sucks because I'd love if this was a Western Conference Finals, but instead we get it in the second round. I think these are the 2 best teams out of the West. And yeah, I have Phoenix in 6 also.
So much Phoenix in 7.
Phoenix in 7. Yeah, I mean that's completely fair. With Jokic as the MVP, it's they're going to stay in it.
I just feel like at some point KD's going to miss a game. I don't know when. Just going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. It's a hard take to prove because that is a big what if, but I honestly think if KD misses time, that if anybody from that Phoenix team misses time, I think Denver pulls it out. But
I think Chris Paul can miss time and be
just
fine.
your typical Chris Paul missing 1 or 2 games in the playoffs.
That happens. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, heartbreaking. So 2-6, you have a 2-3, Michael, on your side. Memphis and Golden State. I'll let you start off with this one.
Well, I was just going to speak for kind of both of it, but I'll just speak for the Kings. I think if the Kings met the Grizzlies and Steven Adams isn't playing, I think it's a hard matchup, but I might say Grizzlies in 7, but I'm going to rock the Kings in 7 too. I think these teams, this would be a really, really fun matchup. But the Warriors, as you guys, I think the Warriors would beat the Grizzlies pretty good.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Cade, do you lean Memphis, or do you lead?
It's tough. I mean, just going off of everything and experience, I think it's going to be a tough series either way. I think it won't be a quick one. I think it probably is that Game 6, Game 7 series. But, I mean, it's kind of like we said about LeBron. Is Golden State the Golden State of years past? Is LeBron the LeBron of years past? Is this a turning of the tables finally, or is a younger team like the Grizzlies going to be able to get by them? Can John Morant go out there and lead them to the Western Conference Finals? And personally, I see it. I think if it does go 6-7, I think that plays more to Memphis, like we talked about in the last round against Sacramento. Golden State's just not great on the road. It's strange how bad they've been on the road this year. So I think in that sense, since Game 7 it would be in Memphis, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if it goes to a Game 7, kind of like we said there, and I think it will probably go like 7. So I got Memphis in 7.
Yeah, I have Memphis in 7 also. Kind of like you kind of hit all the points I was going to make on the head. Golden State not being sure if they're the team of the past. If it goes to 7, Golden State's been atrocious on the road. But something else I want to point out is what a rough path for Memphis no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You have the 2 most experienced teams in the playoffs that you have to face round 1 and round 2 potentially. And that's just tough break. But, hey, if they're able to pull it out, props to them. I think they're legit. Not many people do. So, yeah, I have Memphis in 7 and going to my Western Conference Finals against Phoenix. So, moving on to the 1-4, we kind of spoiled it already earlier by talking about the Cavs a little prematurely. Cleveland and Milwaukee. I'm just going to straight up say it. I have Milwaukee in 5. It's kind of tough. It is a rough matchup for Giannis. Like I said, the Cavs' interior defense is ridiculously good. You said odds-on favorite right now is Evan Mobley for Depoy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Evan Mobley can keep up with Giannis. there's that lack of experience again, and we've seen how Giannis is able to just bully those smaller, like not as built fours in the game. Drew Holiday, on the probably the best perimeter defender in my opinion. And I just don't know if Donovan Mitchell's going to be able to do what Donovan Mitchell does most of the time. So I got Milwaukee in 5.
Yeah, I agree with your reasoning, but I had them. I think the Cleveland could get 2 games out of it, so I had 6.
I got Milwaukee in 5 as well.
Yeah. Plus, it kind of hasn't been talked about. Chris Middleton has been underwhelming this year, but late on in the season, he's been somewhat back to the old Chris Middleton. So if he steps up, he's going to be a complete difference maker for this Milwaukee team, and I don't know. We'll see if I have anybody stopping him or not. So got a 2-3 matchup in Boston and Philly. Probably the best series of the tournament. Kate, I'll let you lead off.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it Philly and Boston last year? Didn't they play each other? Did Boston knock out Philly?
Boston played
I'm trying to remember who eliminated Philly last year.
Miami.
It was Miami that eliminated them.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of people are probably going to pick Boston to win this. I think Boston's just absolutely loaded. I'm biased. I think Phoenix makes it to a conference finals. I just really like this team. I think it just depends if James Harden can actually be consistent. He's kind of just been kind of all over the place down the stretch recently. He has some games where he'll go out there and shoot 20 or 30 points, and then some games where he can't get by like 10 points. So if Harden can be himself and just kind of relax and play well, and Joel Embiid can kind of carry this team like he needs to, which he definitely going to have to have some high-scoring games in there to beat a team like Boston. But I'll go Boston are 6 and 7, 6 or 7. I'm not 1,000% sure. I'll go 7 just because I do respect Boston a lot. So I'll go Phoenix and 7.
Phoenix or
Phoenix and 7. I said that. Yeah, I respect Boston a lot. I think it's going to go to 6 or 7.
You mean Philly?
Yeah, I was asking.
Philly.
I was
Thank you.
It's like, hold on here.
Thank you. Yes, Philly and 7.
Okay.
I had Boston in 7 too.
Okay. I am such on the fence here about both these teams. Embiid has been unstoppable all year. I don't know who would stop him, but at the same time, who's going to stop Jason Tatum? Who's going to stop Jaylen Brown?
PJ Tucker.
Exactly. When you're relying on PJ Tucker to stop Jason Tatum, it's going to be a rough go. But I think that Boston has those rotational pieces in Robert Williams and Al Horford. They provide enough stoppage on Embiid that I think Boston pulls it out in 7, which I hate doing, but I have Philly out of the tournament. So on to our conference finals. Me and Cade both have number 2 Memphis against number 4 Phoenix.
And I got Suns, Kings, my 2 teams.
That's right.
And that's going to look like some bandwagon right now. But, dude, I was on this Suns team 10 years ago when they had Dragon Bender, and they were getting 10
Dragon
wins.
Bender.
Like, I'm an OG Suns fan, all right? So don't even come at me with that. But I'll do mine because you two have the same. I honestly could see the Kings losing the first round, but I think if their offense plays the way that they can, I think they can easily get here. But I think their luck runs out with the Suns. I actually think they get 5 or 6 by the Suns. I think they just match up really bad. I actually might say 5. I'm going to say the Suns in 5. It's just not a good matchup for just positionally.
Yeah. I've got Phoenix in 6. I do think this is a lot better matchup for Memphis than it is Sacramento, based off the sole fact of they have the interior defense that Sacramento doesn't. But when it comes to perimeter shooting, I don't know who's really going to stop Kevin Durant. Devin Booker's probably going to be guarded by Desmond Bane, I'd say, which isn't a terrible matchup, but like I said, this Suns team is just so star heavy that I don't know who's going to stop them. And it all goes back to your Steven Adams take in the first round.
Yeah.
you're going to have Xavier Tillman on DeAndre Ayton unless they throw triple or Jaren Jackson Jr. on him.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Suns in 6. Could see it going 7, but I have Suns 6.
Mm-hmm.
I have the same game as you with the Phoenix, Memphis not having the Sacramento there, but I think Phoenix is just going to go on a tear here, and I got them in 5.
And then, so the 1 and 2 in the East is what I have. Did you have?
I have Philly.
Okay. So I'll let you start off with this one because, Michael, you have Boston too, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So as much as I want to be biased for the Sixers, I just don't. Embiid's going to be, I don't know. I don't know who's going to stop Giannis is the problem. I think Giannis is just going to have a heyday, just kind of like with the problem they had against Boston, who's going to stop Tatum. But I think if they can somehow get by Tatum, there's no way I don't think they're going to get by Giannis. I think the Bucks are just too much for Philly to handle, and honestly, probably Bucks in like 6.
Yeah, that's fair. I have Milwaukee in 7 over Boston. Going back to this is a big rival in the East now, just because you have the young guns, somewhat the young guns in Boston now. They're not really anymore with all that experience, but I have Milwaukee over Boston in 7. I think Milwaukee's just got too much defense, and Boston will struggle to figure to crack that out in that final game in Game 7.
I agree, but do we all have the same exact finals?
Milwaukee, Phoenix, yeah.
Yes.
Seems like a very popular one.
I don't like that at all, but it seems the most logical, so I'm not going to complain. But this is, the rematch of the finals, which would be really cool. And the last time the Suns went up 2-0 and then choked it away, lost 4 straight. But do you think they can do it this year?
Well, that time they didn't have Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
I think that's the
They didn't
difference.
have a top 5 player in the league.
Yeah.
I think Phoenix can do it. I don't think they do. I think it goes 7. I think that home court advantage is going to play a big factor in this series. So I don't know what Ayton's going to do offensively. Obviously, he was completely shut down last time they played Milwaukee. Nobody could guard Giannis in that finals, and I don't know who's going to do it this time.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could guard Giannis, but I don't think anyone's going to be able to guard Durant this time.
You don't think Giannis could keep up with Durant defensively?
I don't think they'll do it. They don't want to get him fouls.
That's
Telling
true.
you. That's just like going to be like the Cleveland Warriors series. They wouldn't put LeBron on Durant, and Durant was frying the Cavs back then in the finals because they
Needed LeBron
you
on the
can't
court.
get him in foul trouble with a guy who's gonna attack the basket every time he gets the ball.
So I'm going Milwaukee in 7.
I'm going Phoenix in 6.
Cade?
I got Phoenix in 7.
Wow, so I'm a lone Milwaukee guy. That kind of surprises me. Best player in the league, in my opinion.
No,
That's
he is, but
kind of why I went
if
there
he's
too.
the best player in the league, KD is right up there too.
Oh yeah, KD's right up there, but it's I don't know. Giannis is such a physical freak of just like getting his own shot, and I mean so is KD, but Giannis gets to where he wants to go, and if Giannis wants to get there, he'll get there. So
I've seen Giannis get shut down though
yes,
by the Heat.
by that Heat, yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. That Heat series
Mm-hmm.
from that was also 3 years ago too. That's kind of my
But that
big deal.
wasn't on Giannis. It wasn't more of like Giannis played bad. He got shut down. It was more of
Coach
they
adjustments.
got out game plans. And,
Yeah.
that can happen.
So there you have it. There's our playoff takes on the NBA, and we're gonna quickly run through NHL real quick. Michael and Cade both had Phoenix. I'm a lone Milwaukee Bucks guy, and now it's time for the kind of just a fun last 10 minutes here.
Yeah, I think it's fair that we don't give this a lot of time because
We don't know
none
what
of us
we're
are
talking
knowledgeable.
about.
Don't take what we're saying too
Disclaimer.
seriously on
I don't
NHL.
know. Anything.
Don't take our word
This
for
is
this.
this is just fun
It's just an
Um,
added piece in. Where do we even want to
for
start
NHL
with this?
fans who want us to talk about this. So here we are.
All right. Let me pull up my bracket here.
Let's go Penguins.
So
They're almost out.
yeah, the Penguins actually aren't even in the picture right now. I'm pretty sure, like we said, if the Islanders lose and they win, I'm pretty sure they can sneak in. But either way, I think they're going to have to play Boston. And
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get by the Bruins. Unless, like I said, I remember a couple of years ago when the Lightning were the best team and they lost in
And
the
they
first
lost
round.
in the first
So
round. And like I said,
that's why I
NHL's
love
so open.
hockey playoffs. Is it's extremely open. I feel like hockey might be more open than any sport when it comes to the playoffs, to where you see upsets. So
Yeah, I remember one year an 8-seed Kings team won the Stanley Cup, and
Yeah.
it was wild.
well, how about the year that the first year Golden Knights and their literally
In the-
inaugural
in the-
season go to the finals?
Yeah. All right. Cade, I'm going to let you lead this segment because I don't have a bracket up right now.
Okay. So let's just start over here. Let's go.
We're going to do majority rules on this too, probably.
Let's just do Boston or Penguins/Islanders because we've already been talking about it.
Penguins.
Michael, you're not going to win this one anyway, so let's just both spit it out. Okay, 3, 2, 1, Bruins.
Bruins.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Michael. So staying on that same side, just going down the list on that side of the bracket. Next we'd have up is the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I'm gonna go. I know the Tampa Bay is pretty nasty, so I'm gonna go Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Lightning too. The Lightning have had a lot of playoff experience recently. They've been a really good team in years past. Even though they are lower seeded than Toronto and they're not as good as they've been in the past, I'll lead.
All I know
Lightning.
is I've heard the Maple Leafs are the Cowboys of the NHL.
Yep, that's what I was
Yep.
going to say. And then, like, in the past, Tampa Bay has been the Golden State of the NHL, just based off of talent on the roster. Yeah, I'm going to go Tampa also.
So then that would lead us to the Hurricanes versus the Florida Panthers.
The Canes versus the Panthers. I know the Canes are, like, recently been good in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not too sure. I mean, I don't know, like,
I'm gonna base my prediction off who will win in a fight. So a Hurricane or a.
or a Panther. White Hope.
So we're going Hurricanes, baby.
I'm going to go Carolina just because I know historically they've been good recently.
Yeah, Carolina's 51-21 on the season. Panthers are 42-31. So this is definitely a mismatch here. And
think-
as far as just looking at record and wins, the
That could be swapped
Hurricanes
too.
should.
It looks like New Jersey can jump Carolina.
Yeah,
for
there's
that
one
seed.
game left, so there definitely still could be some movement. So
We're just going on.
just
we're
going off of what it
we're
would
just
be
winging it.
today. Yeah, we're just kind of winging this segment if you haven't noticed. Up next, we have the Battle of the Yorks.
Oh,
They
wow.
have the New Jersey Devils against the Rangers,
I
New
think
York Rangers.
gotta go the Devils.
I'm gonna go with my boy Frank the Tank's team here, and go with the Devils.
He's a
Isn't-
Devils guy.
Yeah,
Isn't Patrick Kane on?
the Rangers.
He got traded. I was saying he
to the
got
Rangers.
traded.
You're 100% right. Yeah, the Rangers are supposed to be that team, but I think all that being said,
Since I know Patrick Kane is on the Rangers, I'm going to go Rangers. Doesn't matter anyway.
I respect it. I definitely respect it.
All right, Cade, who we got next?
Up next, we're going to be jumping over to the. I'm pretty sure we're jumping to the other conference here. To the Western Conference, to where we'll have the Avalanche against the Seattle Kraken.
I gotta go the second year. Made it in the playoffs. Gotta go the Kraken.
I think the Avalanche. They won the Stanley Cup last year. It's a similar-ish team, so I'm going to go
I'm going
Avalanche.
to say, as a not a huge NHL watcher, you kind of got to go off of what you know in the past historically. So
Yeah.
got to go Colorado.
Although I love the Seattle Kraken. I
You
think
don't
that's
like
cool.
the-
That's a cool.
I
team.
love their name. It's so cool.
Their logo. It was a very well-made team.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the Dallas Stars against the Minnesota Wild.
Well, I know that Minnesota struggles all the time in the playoffs. I've talked about this with my roommate last night. He roots for all the Minnesota teams, and he goes, well, I'm glad I don't watch hockey, or else I'd just be disappointed about one other thing in the Wild every year. I think I'm going to go Minnesota this year, just because don't know anything about either of these teams, but I'm going to go Minnesota.
I'm going to go Stars here.
There you go, Michael. Tiebreaker.
What do you want? Wild or Stars?
Yeah, I'm gonna go the Wild.
Sick.
All All right, next up we have the Winnipeg Jets against the Vegas Golden Knights. And I will go Golden Knights.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Winnipeg. No, it's in Canada.
Yeah.
Michael? Jets, Knights?
Knights.
So Knights move on. We have the Oilers against the Los Angeles. Pretty sure, yeah, Kings as well. So
Yep.
I'll go Kings.
Oilers.
Connor
Edmonton,
McDavid.
baby.
I know who Connor McDavid
Oilers.
is.
All right, so hurry as we try to wrap this up in 4 minutes. We're just gonna let's do some speed picks here. So we have Bruins versus Lightning.
Bruins.
Okay. Doesn't even matter, Michael. Speak up or be forgotten.
I was going to say Lightning.
I think we have what, Hurricanes versus Devils.
I'm going to go Canes.
Devils.
Devils.
Okay,
Dang it.
we're just gonna finish this side off. Bruins, Devils.
Bruins.
Devils.
Okay, Bruins are in the Stanley Cup. All right, quickly, Avalanche or Wild. Avalanche.
Yep. Don't matter.
Michael, speak up or be forgotten.
I'll just be forgotten.
We have Oilers, Knights.
Oilers.
Dang it. I want us to be different for once. All right, moving on. Oilers versus Avalanche.
I'm going to say, give me Oilers.
Give me Oilers. Why not? Why not?
I want Connor McDavid to get a ring.
Oilers are in the Stanley Cup. Bruins, Oilers.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing. This is where it ends. When you have a franchise-breaking team, we saw it with the. I know the Blackhawks a couple years ago were really good, and they almost won it, or they did win it all, as they started off undefeated for super long. Usually, when you see these runs in the NHL, they usually don't end. I got Bruins.
Yeah, I think it would take all the Oilers have to get by the Knights to even make it there, and then again to get by the Avalanche is kind of insane. I think we kind of jumped the shark on that one a little bit, but I do think Bruins would probably win it all. I think that's most people's favorite to win it all. I think it'd be cool to see someone else win it.
I'll say, like we said, there's a lot of parity in the NHL, so
Yeah, for sure.
we'll see. I'm definitely going to watch them, though, because I do like playoff hockey.
Yeah, playoff hockey is very enjoyable.
Cannot stand regular season because there's too many games, kind of like the NBA. But, yeah, so there we have it. The amateur hockey bracket.
Suns are going to win it, and so are the Boston Bruins. So, and championships for those.
We've got Bucks, Bruins, and I think Michael, who knows what he has hockey-wise.
Sun's cracking.
Sun's cracking.
The Seattle Kraken are going all the way as a wild card.
All right. So those are our couple brackets. One pretty serious, one not so serious. We'll be back next week, hopefully talking about the NBA and NHL playoffs, if we're able to talk about the NHL playoffs. And the NFL draft, we might have a mock draft next week. So either that week or the week after that. So it is time to wrap up. This has been the first quarter with Gage Kaler, Cade Ricketts, and Michael Bosch.